Hey guys, this is Obadiah here coming at you with another TRP3 extended video. For today, I'll be following up on my Herbalism video to show you guys some of the inner workings of how the item and customized professions actually work inside TRP3 extended, as well as some of the developments I've made to make the item more accessible, as well as with hopes of posting it on Wago.com so that you guys can actually use it and try it out for yourself. So, first and foremost, I've actually converted the item and the profession into a campaign. So before I show you guys the inner workings, let's go ahead and just see what we can do with what I've changed. So I've added a campaign called Professions. Basically this will be for players that want to pick up a skill or two and want to augment their RP with a profession, excuse me. Let's go ahead and start and resume the campaign. So you'll see it automatically starts a quest for Herbalism. Now ideally, once I've had all the professions transitioned over into the campaign, you'll actually get to choose which one you get to start with. Number 2, we saw a quest objective that we have to go talk with a certain herbalist named Tunisia, Stormwind City. As with all things, I like to RP everything in character if I can. So to travel to Stormwind, it's actually quite a lengthy trip since we have to go up through Elwyn at the juncture of Red Ridge Mountains, go all the way over through Goldshire, yikes, and then head into Stormwind. Being that it is a long travel, Obadiah is definitely going to need some food. As you can see here, he has some local spices. He also has a lot of local goods that he could trade inside Stormwind, but he doesn't have any food. Previously, he set a trapper's cage in the woods to the west. We can actually see where it is on the map. You can see here I've laid a simple trap roughly 300 yards away. Let's go ahead and mount up and see if we can head over there and make some food. Alright, so we see here that my player is basically almost at the trap itself. Let's go ahead and walk up to this tree, and I set it right around here. Now then, I will tell you guys that that map node icon is actually used through Dice Master, which allows you to make and create nodes. I'll show you right now through the dungeon master role. So if you go over to map nodes, you can actually create a map node. You can view it, and you can also select a target icon as well as a title. And also if you're in a group, you can make it displayed or hidden from them. I like to use this just to remember where I put my maps, or my traps, excuse me, not my maps. And that way I can track where they are and I know where to find them. And I feel like this kind of adds an RP element because Obadiah probably would actually mark on his map where he left his traps. So, I believe I left it right here. Let's go ahead and check the trap. Excellent. It looks like I got a good amount of simple meat and pristine hide. Go ahead and loot that, and let's get back to DUSKWOOD, or Darkshire, excuse me, so that I can cook the meat up. Alright, and we are back right now in Darkshire at the fireplace inside the kitchen. So let's go ahead and open up our inventory. Let's open up our cooking cauldron. Let's put in some simple meat. Let's put in some salt and some pepper. We made some travel jerky. Excellent. Let's go ahead and loot all of it. Let's take out the remaining meat from the cooking pot. Travel jerky basically is just meat that's been dried out and seasoned over a length of time to improve its shelf life, as well as just proving to be a very, very good traveling snack for any traveler. Excellent. So Obadiah now has some food. He has all of his goods. Now we can go find Tunisia and Stormwind City. Alright, and looks like we found Tunisia, I don't know how to say her name, so apologies, but looks like we found her. She's in Stormwind City, and she's basically the Herbalism trainer that you talk to whenever you start off with Herbalism as a human. This might change, but I wanted to provide a trainer for the player to use that would quote-unquote like mentor them and train them how to use the profession. So, now that we found her, let's go ahead and talk with her. Completed that objective, and we have a multitude of options. So the first one is, I hear you were gifted in the ways of Herbalism. I've lost my tools. What can you tell me more of Freya's gift? And I have a gift of Freya. Can I upgrade my tools? So let's start off with the number 1. So this will have some filler text for right now, but basically this will be the first prompt that basically tells the player about Herbalism and allows them to get the tools to actually practice and learn Herbalism. So if I close out of my scene, we'll actually see that I have now the herbalist pouch and herbalist knife. This was provided to me once I clicked that prompt. So let's go ahead and put the knife inside the herbalist pouch, close it up. Talk to her again. You can see it removed a couple of options. So it removed that first option and the second option. If I delete this entire thing and talk to her again, it says that the option is open again, that I've lost my tools, and I can receive it again. You can see there that the objective keeps on changing and completing, and I need to rework that a little bit. So this is very much still in the works. But anyways, so we have our pouch and we have our bag. And now let's talk about these Freya gifts. So let's just see what she can tell us. Basically what the Freya's gift is basically a seed, that I have one right here in my inventory, that you will find intermittently as you do your herbalist knife profession. It's a low chance overall, and these seeds are supposed to be incredibly important. Essentially, they are seeds that never mature into any kind of plant, but they have a certain amount of energy inside of them that kind of pulsates out and increases the fertility of the soil, as well as making the herbs around it grow faster. So essentially, it's supposed to be like a coveted item. It's supposed to be important, and it's not something that you can grow yourself, because the seed itself doesn't mature into anything, so it can't make offspring or anything like that. Essentially, these items will be wanted by herbalism trainers and mentors in exchange for improving your herbalism profession. I got this idea from Stardew Valley, where basically you have a multitude of professions, and using each profession levels it up. And essentially, at certain points, you get to choose perks that improve your profession overall. I wanted to implement something similar. So essentially, Freya's gift will be a currency that you exchange to these trainers and mentors for additional perks to your profession. So we saw earlier that she had an option that says, I have a gift of Freya, can I upgrade my tools? When we click on that, we actually get a perk page. And we have a couple of perks to choose from. The first one is the reduced cooldown, so it reduces the cooldown of my herbalist knife from 60 to 30 seconds. Requires one Freya's gift. Prolific Gatherer basically increases the amount we gather from each use of our herbalist knife, and that requires 3. And these are the 2 that I currently have worked into the profession itself. You can see there's a next page, which I started another one called Domesticated Herbs, which basically once you mill the herbs for the alchemy profession, you have a chance of getting seeds from the herbs. Or I might have it so that as you use the herbalism knife, you actually can get seeds. And that way you can actually grow the herbs from like a farmland or something like that, making it, more domesticated and like easier to find if you wanted to grow more of one type of herb. And then there'll be some other perks, such as like I'll unlock the Elven area, which is like that Dream Grove area, where you can find Elven herbs inside Duskwood, which will open up a new host of recipes for alchemy, cooking, what have you, and things like that. So for right now, let me just go ahead and show you what the herbalist knife does itself. So if I use inside Stormwind City, I won't get any herbs, but it will enact the cooldown, which is 60 seconds right now, okay? Let's go ahead and talk with her now. And let's go ahead and choose this perk. So I've lost one Freya's gift, and it tells me that I've reduced the cooldown on my herbalist knife to 30 seconds, which we'll use in 40 seconds. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and see how this item actually works. So you can see here, I have all my stock items, which are like my profession items and the items that I use for my RP inside one category, essentially. I like trying to categorize things inside TRP3 extended database. Not always recommended that you do that, but I like having some hierarchy to things. So you can see I have actually a number of professions, such as alchemy, a mortar and pestle, cooking cauldron, fishing pole, herbalist knife, a book of recipes, and a butcher's knife. Essentially, all these professions I really want to delve into more, make them more robust, just like this herbalism knife, and implement them into a campaign so that we can use them. So let's get into why I wanted to change the herbalist knife into a campaign. So at its core right now, the herbalist knife has a number of categories right here, and then an herbalist pouch. So to start off from the bat, I want the herbalist pouch to be the parent item, because I want the herbalist pouch to only contain child items. That way, it can't include anything else, and additionally, having it so that the herbalist knife is the parent knife means I can't put the herbalist knife inside the herbalist pouch. So anyways, that's the one nuanced thing. Additionally, though, inside the actual workflows in and of itself, the main workflow that I run when the item is used is called Alpha Determinator. So basically what that means is it checks for 2 different zones. So the main zone I RP in is Duskwood, so it checks if you're in these zones, and then runs a workflow. So the first thing is it starts a cooldown, that's 60 seconds, executes a macro that makes you kneel, and also uses the dynamic cam macro function to basically zoom in to like a kind of a dramatic angle. Makes a delay that has a sound associated with it, plays a little sound, and then we'll run workflows depending upon where you are or what you're targeting. So we learned from the last video that if I was targeting corpseweed, it would run a very specific function. So basically, if the target name is not equal to corpseweed, it'll continue on. If it is equal to corpseweed, it runs a failure workflow called corpseweed, which then drops that corpseweed herb that we saw. We're in Duskwood right here, it'll run the Duskwood workflow. So let's see what the Duskwood workflow looks like. It basically sets up a variable dynamic value from 1 to 100, and then based upon that variable, we'll show loot. So this first one is if var loot is less than or equal to 5, which is a pretty low roll, it'll show just 1 Duskweed. So essentially, the lower you roll, the worse loot you technically find. The higher you roll, the better you find. So this one is from 90 to 100, and this is what drops the Gray Lotus, which is a legendary herb, and the Shadeberry, which is a very, very versatile herb. So this is a great setup overall, and the one thing that I have an issue with this and why I wanted to switch to an active campaign was the option of modification. You can see here that I have the cooldown set to a certain number. And I could put this to like a random variable like var time, right? But to edit this variable, essentially, to have this variable be edited, it has to come from the item itself. So I can't have, let's say, a cutscene from a different item or a cutscene from a campaign or a quest affect this variable. And that's because this object, that's just the way I think TRP3 extended is set up. And correct me if I'm wrong, anyone in the comments, please. But I have not been able to find a way for items outside the item, the parent item, able to change the variables within it. And that's where the effect of campaigns comes into play. And let's go ahead and jump over to the campaign now under Herbalism. Let's go into the Herbalism pouch. And let's go into the Herbalism knife. So if we see here, it's the exact same setup. I've only added in 2 additional variable operations at the very beginning. You can see here that my cooldown is actually set to a variable called var Freya CD. And if we go to, let's see, where is it? This document right here, right? So this document is the one that pops up with the Herbalism perks, and I go into workflows and I go into var CD. What it does is it removes the phrase gift, and then it actually sets this variable the active campaign. Var Freya CD is stored in the active campaign. So across anything inside the campaign, I can call this variable, which has huge implications. So I'm not limited to the variable only being able to be modified from the Herbalist knife. It can be modified from anything inside the campaign, which opens up a whole option of me being able to send variables more or less from different places to another, is the way I look at it. So when we click that, it set the variable of our Herbalist knife to 30 seconds. So you can see here, under Herbalist knife, under the workflow of Alpha Determinator, it only initializes it when I use it, right? So if it doesn't exist, it'll set it to 60. Otherwise, if it's already set, it doesn't change it at all. So whenever this runs now, it should be set to 30 because I've activated that workflow and I've stored that variable inside the active campaign. This calls whatever variable it is to the active campaign. So let's go ahead and see, and it's set to 30. All right, so how do I activate the second perk, which is the Prolific Gatherer? So this one increases the amount that I gather. So I'll go ahead, I won't show you the pre and post as it would require me to travel back to Duskwood, but let's just choose this. We've doubled the bounty of our Herbalist knife. We're quite the prolific herbalist. Excellent. So I have 2 different workflows for Darkshire now. They're both more or less the exact same, except I've doubled the loot and added in extra herbs. So we can see here for the first one, it's just duskweed, right? For the Freya quantity, when you upgrade your herbalist knife, however, we get 2 duskweed, we also get a dusk bloom. And we can see that more or less through every single one. The last one, we actually get 2 Ray Lotus and 2 Shadeberry. So we've doubled the loot, more or less, from each of these. But how do we know which one to run between these? Inside the Alpha Determinator, at the very bottom, I've added a new condition that calls the active campaign variable var Freya quantity. So if it's set equal to 1, which it's normally set equal to 1, because that's how I initialized it, it'll run the normal Darkshire workflow, which is this one. However, that workflow from the document, which I guess we can go look at again. As of our quantity effect, when you click on the when we click on this guy, it runs this workflow and stores the active campaign and sets the active campaign variable name var Freya quantity to 2. So what that effectively means is that it changes the variable that this workflow calls to 2. So this one, even though this is initialized as 1, it's now set to 2. And so when it gets down to this guy, var Freya quantity is actually equal to 2, so it runs this one. It doesn't run this one. Because this one, it has to be equal to 1. So it skips over this workflow and runs this workflow instead. And this one has the doubling and the extra loot. So that's just a glimpse into things right now for the profession. Feel free to drop a comment upon how you think it's going. Any points that I made were confusing, let me know. I try my best to talk my way through things and explain things. I am definitely no coder whatsoever though, so I definitely am sure I have a few mistakes in this video where I messed up. So I do apologize for that, but I was really excited to show you guys this and really excited about the perk system and being able to upgrade your professions and the like. So it's definitely going to take some time for me to slowly migrate all my stock items into the campaign, as there's a lot of pathway issues that arise when you try to duplicate or copy an object content and just duplicate it into a campaign. Any custom items that you generate from that item end up needing to be rerouted more or less. And that's the simplistic way of me trying to explain what's happening, but it'll just take me some time. It's a lot of grunt work. I'll slowly be doing that, but I can try to see if I can get the Herbalism profession and campaign at least released on Wago so you guys can try it out and mess around with it. It's definitely not complete, and I definitely am a little against submitting something that's not complete or something that I'm not content with, but I also understand that maybe it can help you guys kind of see how it works, and maybe you guys can learn a thing or two from it. And most importantly, maybe you guys can just have a little bit of fun with it. So anyways, guys, that's going to be it for me today. I really hope you appreciated this video. Again, sorry if I made anything too confusing. I definitely do try my best, but I understand that I'm definitely not the best explainer of things. So anyways, drop a like and a comment down below. Definitely subscribe if you guys like these videos. And as always, if you guys see me in game, feel free to reach out and say hi. I definitely welcome and appreciate it. You guys are never disturbing me. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great one.